On the women's side, Lucinda Brand, she comes in as the big heavyweight favorite because of the season she's had. She was absolutely dominant in the UCI Cyclocross World Cup. For my money though, and Ian, I think that you're going to agree with me, I wouldn't put her as the favorite for the World Championships this weekend.
Michael, I 100% agree with you, but I'm not going to get to my favorite quite yet. What I want to talk about is American Clara Honzinger, who recently finished 4th overall in the Cyclocross World Cup. The big question for me is whether Clara can make the podium at this World Championships. Clearly, she has what it takes, finishing 2nd in 2 of the hardest World Cups on the circuit this year, Namur and Dendermonde, also recently finishing 4th at the Over Icy World Cup, which was similarly brutal. Of course, Clara's Achilles heel is well known and was on display in Over Icy. She is not the world's best starter. In fact, from what we've seen, she's about the 14th best starter in the world, which tends to put her 25 to 30 seconds back after the first lap of these international cyclocross races. What's completely amazing about Clara is that she has this blistering 3rd lap in which she can go all the way from outside the top 10 back to the favorites in 1 lap. At Over Icy, she was consistently setting the fastest times up the hill and soon reached the favorites, but didn't quite have what it took to get on the podium or vie for the win. I think it's going to be a little bit different at the World Championships for Clara because we won't see a mid-race lull in the pace like we have been seeing in the World Cups. This is due in part to the national team nature of the World Championships, in which I believe we will see some cohesion from the Dutch riders Lucinda Brand, Marianne Vos, Annemarie Worst, Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado, and Denise Betsema, which could put Clara on the back foot and make it harder to get back to that group of favorites at the front. But at this point, I really wouldn't put anything against Clara Honzinger, from being on the podium wearing a medal at the end of the World Championships to maybe even being an outside favorite for the World Championship herself.
Now this brings me to somebody who has, I would say, a greater shot at winning the world title, and that is the defending champion, Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado. She knows her way around a sandpit, having been a previous winner at Kokeside, which is just 30K down the beach from Ostend. Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado, she has not been as dominant this season as she was last. That said, she does seem to have timed her peak to perfection, winning Over Icy. She was just ahead of Lucinda Brand. Lucinda Brand didn't really have any need to push it, and Denise Betsema was on the ragged edge. So we'll see if maybe Brand was playing a little cagey, keeping something in reserves for the coming weekend. I would personally put Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado over Brand, but that is just because I think Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado is a better technical bike rider, and that is going to be so important on this sandy course. Ian, you do have a favorite for the race though, and I tend to agree with it.
By now you've probably figured out who our pick for the women's races of the Cyclocross World Championships. That's right, Denise Betsema. Now, I know what you're thinking. These guys don't like Denise Betsema. They've talked shit about her for the last 2 years, ever since she tested positive 3 times for a banned substance and then received a shortened suspension and was back racing less than a year after her positive test and subsequent sanction. Now, I'll admit we've probably been a bit unfair to Denise Betsema. I actually talked with Clara Honsinger and Katie Compton about what it was like to see her back at the front of these races and winning, and we'll listen to their thoughts in a second. But in terms of being a great cyclocross racer, it doesn't get much better than Denise Betsema on sand. She lives on a small island in the Netherlands and is the very best sand rider in the entire world, has won multiple races on iconic cyclocross sand courses, and she is the hands down favorite to win the World Championships. Didn't have the best ride at Over Icy, but what she did at the Holst World Cup proves that she has the form to win this World Championships, and she will end up in the rainbow bands on Saturday afternoon. Let's hear what Clara and Katie have to say about Denise Betsema winning bike races again.
We all know that whatever you put in your body is up to you. Doesn't matter, you know, what it says in the label. It doesn't matter like who gave it to you. It's your fault if you've ingested it. And that's been something that's been taught by us through USADA and WADA forever, since the beginning of doping controls. And she got off on tainted supplement that she didn't know about taking. whether I agree with that rule or not, it doesn't matter. They follow the rules, they follow the protocol, and she's racing again. And that's something that we all have to deal with. But my issue is, I don't think the rules are strict enough. I don't think the staff gets in trouble. I don't think the pharmacy that provided the supplement, the doctor that told her to take it, nobody gets in trouble. And even if you do, you don't lose any money. You don't lose any respect. You don't lose any, there's no loss. There's no repercussions you suffer from having a doping positive.
I think from like a media perspective and then a fan perspective, it's easy to make Betsema the villain. It's easy to focus on this one incident. But what I'm hearing you say is, if you have frustration, if you have anger, if you want something changed, don't direct that at one athlete and what they are doing or what they aren't doing. Direct it at the system, direct it at the process. And that's where actual change can happen.
Yes. And I think that's where it needs to happen, because I don't think the system works that great. I definitely think there needs to be repercussions for the people surrounding the athlete, not just the athlete. Because honestly, in Betsema's world, we don't know. She may have been completely oblivious, have no idea what she's taking. Somebody tells her, here's a vitamin, take it. And if you don't do your homework and question it, or you're not taught to question it, she could have been telling the truth the entire time, have no idea. And that's not fair to her either. But again, we don't know, because we don't know who's telling the truth.
Whatever has happened, while it's frustrating and I feel like it degrades the sport, it's my personal focus is just on my own race there, not kind of the status or the situation of others.